Nobody cares. Not about your struggles, your failures, or the excuses you tell yourself. The world doesn't stop for your bad days, your self-doubt, or your missed opportunities. People are too consumed with their own lives to worry about yours. And that's the best thing that could ever happen to you. Because once you realize that no one is coming to save you, you stop waiting. You stop making excuses. You stop seeking validation. You take full responsibility for your own life. Your success, your growth, your discipline, it's all on you. Many men waste years hoping someone will recognize their potential, waiting for the perfect moment, or complaining that life isn't fair. But a Stoic understands one truth. The world only responds to results. Not effort, not emotions. Results. If you don't work, if you don't improve, if you don't push forward, you become irrelevant. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. The moment you accept that nobody cares is the moment you take control. No more waiting, no more hoping, just action. This is Victory Stoic, where men sharpen their minds, master discipline, and take full ownership of their lives. If you're ready to stop looking for approval and start building yourself into someone who commands respect, like, subscribe, and share this with a man who needs to hear it. Now let's get to work. Number 1, the world responds to results, not excuses. When Alex was in his early 20s, he had big dreams. He wanted success, financial freedom, and respect. But every time he fell short, he had an excuse. He wasn't born into wealth. He didn't have the right connections. The economy was bad. His boss didn't recognize his potential. He convinced himself that the world was unfair, that he just needed someone to understand his struggles. But the world didn't care. His bills didn't care why he couldn't pay them. His landlord didn't care about his potential. Employers didn't care about how hard he tried. They only cared about what he could deliver. Opportunities didn't open up for him just because he felt he deserved them. The reality was simple. If you don't produce results, you don't matter. One day, after another job rejection, he looked in the mirror and finally admitted the truth. His excuses weren't helping him. They weren't changing his situation. They weren't paying his rent. He could keep blaming the world, or he could take responsibility and become undeniable. So he changed. He stopped complaining about unfairness and started playing the game as it was. He worked harder, learned skills that made him valuable, and focused on delivering results instead of expecting recognition. Within a few years, everything shifted. He got better jobs. He made more money. He commanded respect, not because the world suddenly became fairer, but because he became so good that the world had no choice but to acknowledge him. No one cares why you haven't succeeded. They only see if you have society rewards value, not effort. No one will give you credit for how much you tried. The only thing that matters is whether you delivered. A business doesn't care why you missed a deadline. It only cares that it was missed. A customer doesn't care why your product failed. They only care that it didn't work. A competition doesn't care why you didn't train enough. They only care about who wins. This is the cold truth that most people refuse to accept. They want their hardships to matter. They want the world to be sympathetic. But the world is indifferent. It doesn't care about your background, your struggles, or your reasons. It only reacts to what you do. You are either exceptional or you are forgotten. If you're great, the world rewards you. You get paid more, respected more, and given more opportunities. If you're mediocre, you fade into the background. There is no middle ground. Look at athletes, entrepreneurs, or artists. The ones at the top are celebrated, idolized, and paid millions. The ones who are almost good enough, no one remembers them. The difference between being great and being invisible isn't luck. It's discipline, execution, and an obsession with getting better. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." The same applies here. Stop explaining why you could be successful and start proving it. Results speak louder than words. If you find yourself making excuses, ask, would I listen to these excuses if someone else gave them to me? Would you respect a man who constantly blames his circumstances but never improves? Probably not. The world works the same way. It doesn't listen to complaints. It listens to success. So forget the reasons why you can't. Focus only on how you can. If you're not getting the results you want, it's not because life is unfair. It's because you haven't done enough. Change that. Number 2, self-respect comes from action, not approval. Imagine two men standing in front of a mirror. One looks at himself with quiet confidence, his posture strong, his mind clear. The other desperately seeks something in his own reflection, as if waiting for permission to feel worthy. The difference? One has proven himself through action. The other is still waiting for validation. Most men make the mistake of tying their self-worth to how others see them. They seek praise, approval, and reassurance. They post their achievements online, fishing for likes. They drop their accomplishments into conversations, hoping for admiration. They shape their identity based on external validation, not internal substance. A Stoic operates differently. He does not need applause. He does not seek permission to feel worthy. He builds his value in silence, through action, through discipline, through results. His self-respect is earned, not given. Respect isn't claimed, it's demonstrated. A lion does not need to prove he is a lion. He moves, and the jungle recognizes. A man who has mastered himself does not need to declare his worth. His presence speaks for itself. If you wake up early, train hard, and push yourself daily, you don't need someone to tell you you're disciplined. You are disciplined. If you build a business, stack your finances, and create value, you don't need anyone to say you're successful. You are successful. You don't need a certificate of validation from society. Your actions are your proof. External approval is an addiction. Most people are hooked on validation. They adjust their behavior based on how others react. They post, they seek recognition, they crave applause, and like any addiction, it weakens them. They become dependent, unable to feel worthy without external reinforcement. But a Stoic moves in silence. He does not need the world to acknowledge him. He does not shrink when ignored, and he does not glow when praised. He remains the same because his self-respect is rooted in action, not perception. Self-respect is earned in private. Think about the greatest warriors, thinkers, and leaders in history. Did Marcus Aurelius need public approval to rule an empire with wisdom? Did Miyamoto Musashi, the undefeated samurai, ask for applause before perfecting his swordsmanship? Did Nikola Tesla, who revolutionized the world, waste time begging for recognition? No, they mastered themselves behind closed doors. They put in the work when no one was watching. And when they stepped into the world, they didn't need validation. Their results spoke for them. Seneca said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." The same applies to respect. The man who needs approval is weak. The man who acts with purpose, regardless of who notices, is unshakable. Prove it to yourself, not to the world. Every day you are given a choice. Live for the approval of others and stay weak, or build your worth through relentless action and become unshakable. A real man doesn't need to be told he is valuable. He proves it to himself. No applause necessary. Number 3, the more you focus on yourself, the more you control your life. A man walking through a storm does not waste time shouting at the wind. He tightens his coat and keeps moving. In life, most men do the opposite. They obsess over how others perceive them, adjusting their actions based on external approval. They hesitate, they overthink, they dilute their potential trying to please people who don't even care. But the moment you stop caring about outside noise, you reclaim your power. Every ounce of energy wasted on seeking validation is energy stolen from your own progress. A man who focuses on himself is dangerous because he is unstoppable. The world is a distraction. Your growth is the mission. The weak man scrolls endlessly, comparing himself to others. He wonders what people think about him. He changes his words, his actions, even his goals based on external pressure. But the strong man moves with purpose. He sets his own standards, blocks out the noise, and works relentlessly. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A man's worth is no greater than his ambitions." If your ambitions are shaped by the opinions of others, you are not living, you are reacting. When you stop worrying about their thoughts, their judgments, their expectations, something incredible happens. You take full control of your time, your mindset, and your results. Energy is limited. Spend it where it matters. Imagine two men. One spends his days wondering what others think of him, hesitating, adapting, seeking approval. The other wakes up and executes. He trains, he builds, he studies, he improves. A year later, who is ahead? Your mind has a limited capacity. Wasted on nonsense, and you stay weak. Invested in yourself, and you become unshakable. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Translation: if you are focused on yourself, people will misunderstand you. Let them. Your results will speak louder than their words. Stop adjusting to the world. Make the world adjust to you. Number 4. Success comes from consistent action, not feelings. Emma always wanted to be a writer. She imagined herself finishing a novel, seeing her book on shelves, hearing people talk about how her words changed their lives. But every time she sat down to write, she told herself she wasn't in the right mood. Some days she felt inspired and wrote for hours. Other days she stared at a blank page, waiting for motivation to strike. Weeks passed, then months, then years. Her dream never materialized, not because she lacked talent, but because she relied on feelings instead of discipline. On the other side of town, Daniel had the same dream, but he understood something Emma didn't. Motivation is unreliable. He didn't write because he felt like it. He wrote because he had committed to it. Every morning at 5 a.m., he sat down at his desk. Some days, the words flowed effortlessly. Other days, it was torture. But he didn't care. He wrote anyway. A year later, he had a finished manuscript. 2 years later, his book was on shelves. Not because he was more talented, not because he was luckier, but because he showed up every single day, no matter how he felt. This is the difference between people who succeed and those who don't. The world is full of people waiting to feel ready, waiting for the right mood, the right time, the right circumstances. But those who actually achieve something understand that success isn't built on bursts of inspiration. It's built on repetition. Marcus Aurelius said, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being." You don't wait to feel like working. You work because that's what needs to be done. Motivation fades, feelings fluctuate, but action, consistent, disciplined action, builds results. It doesn't matter if it's writing, fitness, business, or self-improvement. The ones who succeed are the ones who show up again and again, regardless of how they feel. Stop waiting for inspiration. Start building habits, because in the end, success doesn't care about your feelings. It only cares that you did the work. Number 5. People are too busy with their own lives to think about you. When Lisa was in high school, she loved painting. She would spend hours sketching, blending colors, creating images that felt like they had a life of their own. But she never showed her work to anyone. She was terrified of what people might say. What if they think it's terrible? What if they laugh at me? What if I embarrass myself? The fear of judgment was paralyzing, so she kept her art hidden. Years passed, and the habit of hiding never went away. In college, she wanted to start a blog, but worried that people would think her writing was unoriginal. At work, she hesitated to speak up in meetings, afraid her ideas wouldn't be taken seriously. Every decision was weighed against an imaginary audience, a group of critics that existed only in her mind. Then one day, she was at a cafe, scrolling through her phone, when she overheard 2 strangers at the next table. One was telling a story, clearly passionate about something. The other nodded along, but every few minutes he would check his phone, sip his coffee, or glance at the door. He was listening, but only halfway. He had his own thoughts, his own worries, his own world. And in that moment, something clicked for Lisa. Nobody was paying as much attention to others as she thought. She thought back to all the times she had worried about people judging her. All the nights she had replayed conversations in her head, wondering if she had sounded foolish. All the dreams she had put on hold because she feared what others might think. And yet, just like that distracted listener at the cafe, most people were too consumed with their own lives to dwell on hers. She decided to test this realization. That week, she posted one of her paintings online. She felt a rush of anxiety as she hit publish, expecting judgment, ridicule, or at least some criticism. But the response? A few likes, a couple of kind comments, and then silence. The world kept moving. No one dissected her work. No one made it a topic of conversation. No one cared nearly as much as she had feared. This was both humbling and freeing. She realized that people were too busy thinking about their own problems, their own insecurities, and their own ambitions to focus on her failures or mistakes. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You want praise from people who kick themselves every 15 minutes, the approval of people who despise themselves?" Most people are so caught up in their own struggles that they barely notice yours. Lisa's mindset shifted. She started sharing her work more openly. She spoke up in meetings. She launched the blog she had been thinking about for years. And nothing terrible happened. Some people liked her work, others ignored it. But the overwhelming realization was that no one was watching as closely as she once believed. Most people live their lives under an imaginary spotlight, assuming that every misstep, every awkward moment, every small failure is being scrutinized by others. But the truth is, everyone else is just as absorbed in their own world as you are. Your fears of judgment are exaggerated. Your mistakes are forgotten faster than you realize. Your failures aren't front-page news in anyone's life but your own. Once you accept this, you stop hesitating. You stop waiting for approval. You stop letting the fear of judgment hold you back. You start acting. Because in the end, the only one truly paying attention to every detail of your life is you. Number 6. If you do nothing, no one cares. If you succeed, they envy you. Tom spent years drifting through life. He wasn't lazy, but he never pushed himself beyond the bare minimum. He went to work, collected his paycheck, and spent his free time watching TV or scrolling through social media. No one criticized him. No one questioned his choices. No one cared. Then something changed. He got tired of feeling average and decided to do something about it. He started waking up earlier, going to the gym, and learning new skills. He began working on a side business, spending late nights and early mornings building something for himself. At first, no one noticed. But after months of hard work, things started to shift. He lost weight, built confidence, and made more money. And that's when the comments began. Why are you trying so hard? You've changed. Must be nice to have all that free time. Some laughed at his efforts. Others downplayed his success, claiming he got lucky. A few outright mocked him. The same people who had never cared about his existence before now suddenly had opinions about his life. This is the reality of success. When you do nothing, you are invisible. When you start winning, you become a target. Example 2. The athlete who proved everyone wrong. Sarah had always been an average runner. She joined races for fun, but never placed near the top. Nobody paid attention to her results, and that was fine. She wasn't seen as a threat. Then she got serious. She hired a coach, changed her diet, and trained relentlessly. She sacrificed nights out, early mornings in bed, and comfort foods. She pushed through exhaustion, injuries, and self-doubt. Months later, she won her first race. Suddenly, people had something to say. Other runners whispered that she must have had an unfair advantage. Some said she was obsessed and taking things too seriously. A few even accused her of using performance enhancers. The same people who once ignored her now resented her. What changed? She became better than them. The unspoken rule of society: stay in the middle or be attacked. Most people are comfortable with mediocrity. If you stay average, they accept you. If you struggle, they pity you. But the moment you rise above them, you become a problem. Your success reminds them of their own lack of effort. Instead of improving themselves, they attack you. This is why you should never live for approval. If you do nothing, they don't care. If you succeed, they resent you. So why waste time trying to please them? Focus on your own path. Seneca said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." The same applies to validation. Those who constantly seek approval are controlled by it. Those who focus on their own work, ignoring both praise and criticism, are truly free. So stop trying to fit in. Stop explaining yourself. Let them talk. Let them doubt you. Then let your success make them irrelevant. Number 7. Focus is your most powerful weapon. A blade is useless if it is dull. A mind without focus is the same: scattered, weak, incapable of cutting through anything meaningful. In a world drowning in distractions, most people live in a constant state of mental fog, jumping from one thing to the next, never committing fully to anything. They wonder why they aren't making progress, why they feel lost, why success seems just out of reach. The answer is simple: they lack focus. A Stoic understands that true power lies in directed effort. He does not chase everything. He chooses one thing and pursues it with relentless precision. He doesn't dilute his attention across 1,000 trivial pursuits. He sharpens his mind like a blade, cutting away the unnecessary, leaving only what truly matters. The Stoic art of cutting away the unnecessary. Seneca wrote, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere. Most people spread themselves too thin. They chase multiple goals at once, switch from one ambition to another, get excited about new ideas but never follow through. They confuse busyness with productivity, mistaking movement for progress. A focused mind is like a sculptor removing excess stone, revealing the masterpiece underneath. If you want success in anything, business, fitness, knowledge, you must remove what does not serve you. Useless distractions, pointless debates, meaningless entertainment, the approval of people who add nothing to your life. Marcus Aurelius said, "Ask yourself at every moment, is this necessary? If the answer is no, let it go." The more you remove, the sharper your focus becomes. The sharper your focus, the more unstoppable you are. One goal, one path, no compromise. A river cuts through rock not because of its power, but because of its persistence. Most people change direction at the first obstacle. The Stoic mind does not waver. Once a goal is chosen, it is pursued with total commitment. Epictetus wrote, "If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." A focused person will often seem strange to others. While they scroll, you work. While they waste time, you sharpen your skills. Let them doubt you. Let them mock your intensity. Their opinions are distractions. Stay locked in. Your focus is your weapon. Wield it wisely. Number 8. Success is built in the dark, when no one is watching. The battlefield is silent before the first clash of swords. The greatest warriors are not made in the roar of the crowd, but in the cold, brutal solitude of training. Sweat dripping on empty ground, blades striking in endless repetition, muscles burning long after the sun has set. No applause, no recognition, no one watching. Only discipline, only relentless effort, only the quiet forging of something unstoppable. Success is no different. It is built in the shadows, long before the world ever sees it. The unseen war. There is a young man who wakes before dawn, long before the city stirs. His alarm doesn't scream, he doesn't need it. Habit wakes him. He ties his shoes, steps into the cold air, and begins to run. No one cheers for him. No one cares if he finishes or if he turns back. And that is exactly why he keeps going. There is a woman who stays after hours, alone in the office, perfecting her craft. The lights hum softly, the streets outside are empty. No one tells her she's doing well. No one rewards her extra effort. But she pushes on, sharpening her skills in silence, because she understands something others don't. When the moment comes, when the world finally notices, it will be too late for everyone else to catch up. When no one cares, you are free. Most people crave recognition. They want their efforts acknowledged, their struggles seen. They waste energy trying to prove themselves before they have built anything worthy of proving. But the ones who rise, the ones who dominate, understand a simple truth. Greatness is forged in darkness. When no one watches, there is no pressure, no expectation. There is only the work, the grinding, the refining of skills in solitude. It is here that the mind is sharpened, the body is strengthened, the will is tested. The shadows are not a curse, they are a gift. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Don't waste time on what you think you lack. Be content with what you have and train your mind to extract its full potential." The quiet hours, the moments of solitude, the unseen labor, this is where your power is built. When the world finally turns to look, they will think you came from nowhere. They will call it luck. They will never understand the years of unseen war you fought while they slept. The world only sees the end result. A champion stands on the podium, but no one saw the night spent training through pain. A successful entrepreneur launches a business, but no one saw the failures, the loneliness, the silent battles against doubt. The artist unveils a masterpiece, but no one saw the countless discarded sketches, the frustration, the years of unseen work. People celebrate results, never the process. They will only care when you have already won. What will you do in the dark? When no one is watching, will you still push forward? Will you sharpen your mind, train your body, refine your discipline, not for applause, not for validation, but because it must be done? Or will you wait, making excuses, hoping for someone to care before you start? Seneca said, "It is in hardships that the soul is strengthened, the will hardened, and the mind sharpened." Hardship is your training ground. Solitude is your advantage. Let others chase attention. You chase mastery. Stay in the dark. Work relentlessly. And when you finally step into the light, the world will not know what hit it. Number 9. Every hardship is a test. Will you complain or conquer it? A soldier does not pray for peace when war comes. A sailor does not beg for calm waters in the middle of a storm. A warrior does not curse the weight of his sword in battle. They understand one truth: hardship is not an obstacle, it is the test. And yet most people spend their lives complaining about the very thing meant to forge them into something stronger. In ancient Rome, a young gladiator named Atticus was thrown into the arena, inexperienced and afraid. He had trained, but training was nothing compared to the brutal reality of combat. When the gates opened, the sand was hot beneath his feet, and the roar of the crowd faded as his opponent stepped forward, bigger, stronger, a seasoned killer. Atticus had two choices: curse his fate and hesitate, or embrace the moment and fight. He chose the latter. He fought, not because he wanted to, but because there was no other option. He won, not because he was the strongest, but because he refused to break. Life does not ask if you are ready. It does not pause to make things fair. It throws you into battle, unprepared, unarmed, and waits to see what you will do. Most people fail, not because they lack strength, but because they waste time complaining, blaming, waiting for things to get easier instead of rising to the challenge. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Hardships are not roadblocks. They are the path itself. Every struggle, every setback, every moment of suffering is a test. Will you break, or will you push forward? History remembers those who chose to conquer. Theodore Roosevelt was a sickly child, weak and frail. Instead of accepting his condition, he built himself through relentless physical training, becoming one of the toughest leaders the world has known. Helen Keller was born deaf and blind, yet she refused to let her condition define her, proving that resilience can break any limitation. Thomas Edison failed over 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb, yet he never saw failure as defeat, only as a lesson. And what of those who complain? They are forgotten, their voices drowned in the noise of excuses. The world does not reward those who sit and wait. It rewards those who stand and fight. When hardship comes, you have two choices. You can be the person who asks, "Why me?" or the one who says, "Watch me." The weak seek sympathy. The strong seek solutions. Hardship is the price of greatness, and only those willing to pay it will ever taste victory. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." The weight you carry is not meant to break you. It is meant to build you. So when life challenges you, do not ask for relief. Ask for the strength to endure. And then, prove yourself worthy. Number 10. The most successful people were once ignored. In 1905, a 26-year-old patent clerk in Switzerland sent out 4 scientific papers to the most prestigious physics journals of the time. He had no university teaching position, no professional lab, no high-profile mentor backing him. His name was Albert Einstein, and at that moment, the world didn't care who he was. His papers on the photoelectric effect, special relativity, and the famous equation E=mc2 were revolutionary. But when he first submitted them, they were met with silence. No headlines, no recognition, just a young scientist working in obscurity, hoping someone would notice. And then someone did. One by one, his ideas began to gain attention. The scientific community could no longer ignore the depth of his work. Within a few years, Einstein had changed physics forever. By 1921, he won the Nobel Prize. The same world that once dismissed him now called him a genius. But the truth is, he was a genius long before anyone recognized him. The world did not give him value, his work did. Ignored, ridiculed, then celebrated. History repeats this pattern over and over. The greatest figures were not born into recognition. They earned it through relentless action. Van Gogh sold only 1 painting in his lifetime. No one cared about his art while he was alive. But he kept painting, creating over 2,000 works despite being ignored. Today, his name is synonymous with artistic genius. J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter manuscript was rejected by 12 publishers. Had she stopped after the 1st or the 10th, no one would know her name. But she didn't stop. She kept writing, kept submitting, until the world had no choice but to take notice. Colonel Sanders was rejected over 1,000 times when pitching his fried chicken recipe before KFC became a global empire. No one cared until they had to. The Stoic truth? Recognition is earned, not given. Most people give up when they are ignored. They expect the world to acknowledge them quickly, and when it doesn't, they quit. But the ones who succeed, they keep going, regardless of recognition. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinions than our own. The world's opinion is irrelevant. The only thing that matters is whether you have done the work." Einstein, Van Gogh, Rowling, Sanders, they were all invisible at some point. But they didn't waste time complaining. They kept pushing forward until the world had no choice but to see them. If you're ignored now, good. That means you have time to build. Work in silence. Become undeniable. And one day, the world will have no choice but to remember your name. Conclusion. Stop waiting for someone to care. Take action now. No one is waiting for you to succeed. No one is losing sleep over your struggles. The world is too busy with its own problems to stop and hand you the life you want. And that's the best thing that could ever happen to you. Because once you stop waiting for approval, once you stop seeking validation, you become unstoppable. Most people waste years hoping for recognition, for someone to push them, for a perfect moment that never comes. But those who achieve something in life don't wait. They move. They take action. They work relentlessly when no one is watching. They improve themselves not because they want applause, but because they refuse to stay the same. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A man's worth is no greater than his ambitions." If your ambition is tied to the opinions of others, you will never be in control of your own destiny. The most powerful individuals in history understood this. You do not work to be seen, you work to be great. If you are ignored now, good. That means you have time to build, to sharpen yourself into someone the world cannot overlook. But don't make the mistake of waiting for people to notice before you put in the effort. They will only care when you have already won. So stop looking for permission. Stop waiting for motivation. Stop asking if the world is ready for you. The only thing that matters is whether you are ready to push forward, regardless of who's watching. If this message resonates with you, like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. And in the comments, tell me, are you waiting for recognition, or are you building yourself into someone too great to ignore? Thank you for watching Victory Stoic. See you in the next video.